What's going on, guys? So today's gonna be a bit of a different video. I've had a bunch of people over the last kind of few months or whatever it's been ask a lot of questions about the 57, how much it cost, how I did everything, stuff like that, as well as a lot of people asking me how YouTube works and can you make any money at it and how to get started and all those things. I'm an amateur at YouTube, so take this with a grain of salt. But putting cars together is something I've been doing for a long time, so I figure I can kind of break it all down, kind of show you how the car worked out compared to YouTube, and then you guys can decide for yourself if I'm an idiot or not. So, I wrote down my fancy board here. So originally, I put everything in US dollars, and I switched over my analytics into US dollars because a lot of you guys are in the US, so I figured that would make the most sense. So basically, everything I had, I kind of took off 30% from what I paid for it. And it's all ballpark pricing, pretty close. A lot of things you can just kind of check online. It'll line up. So the original car I bought was 800 bucks, and it was a basket case. So I'll put a couple of pictures up. But it was missing the front clip, missing doors, no interior, no front suspension, no motor, no trans. But what was there was in pretty good shape. It wasn't too rusty. It came with everything needed to put it back together. So it had the front clip, it had all the suspension. There was no interior. The guy had thrown it all out. It needed a little bit of rust repair. The front end needed to be obviously redone with new bushings and all that sort of stuff. It came with a bunch of extra stuff. Came with 2 sets of trim, extra fenders. I think I have an extra hood, 2 sets of bumpers. So that's what you gotta look for. Is a guy that had a big dream, take this thing apart, fix it up, and go take the grandkids for ice cream in. And then ultimately life happened, didn't work out, took it apart, lost interest, and that's when I showed up. So anyways, that's kind of the nitty-gritty of the car. The front suspension, I got everything off Rock Auto, and I actually ordered everything before I even had the car. The guy was cool, let me take all the suspension home, so I rebuilt the control arms with new bushings, new ball joints, all that sort of stuff. So I did new bushings, new steering, new shocks, everything on it, all through Rock Auto. Was about 350 bucks, and then obviously my labor. I did all brand new brakes, so it still has 4-wheel manual drum. I did 3 drums, all new shoes, new wheel cylinders, new master, and I think I did the rubber lines too. So that was a couple $100 bucks. Same thing, Rock Auto, super cheap. Didn't have a seat. I found a bench seat for 75 bucks, put that on there. I put a set of headers on that motor. You could have used manifolds, but the headers were just easier. It was 150 bucks. They had them in stock, so I did it. The rad, the one I had in there, or I got one for free, it was junk. Hey, you could have recorded it. You could have done all sorts of those things. I bought a new aluminum one off eBay for 200 bucks. Figured I couldn't go wrong. I did the trunk pan, so the back foot or 18 inches, whatever it is, was rotted out. So I did that. That was 100 bucks. Body mounts, because the guy had. Oh, that's the other thing he did. He broke every body mount taking this thing off, or trying to take it off. So that was a pain. But whatever. So 50 bucks, just a lot of labor. Braces. Actually, I knew a guy who had bought a bunch of braces for a Tri-5, so I picked them all up. I used some here. I still have a couple for doing another Tri-5 because they were cheap. Because they're expensive to buy brand new, and I got them all for 100 bucks. What else did I do? A carpet kit for 150 bucks, and I put a shifter in. So that's kind of the nitty gritty. Hey, I'm not putting in. There might have been something I missed. You guys watch the videos, so you'd know. Ultimately, it takes me to kind of 2,300 bucks. I factor in another couple $100 for odds and ends, spray paint, cleaners, you know, screws, nuts, bolts, whatever you want to call it there. So all said and done, this car, when it was running and driving as a 4-door, as it was, $2,500 car. It went through inspection, it passed everything, it was legit, everything worked on it, and it was a good driver. So, I mean, I don't know, I think it was a pretty decent little car for Danny there, and yeah, it actually made a few bucks on YouTube, so I'll show you that next, and then we'll get back to it. So, this is how YouTube worked out. There's probably going to be a bit of a glare here, but I started this is kind of like the end of July type thing, so you can see right there, that's when the car came home. And then I went till kind of end of October the 10th. That even goes into that. So there you go, that's when she actually got the thing. The video went out. So ultimately, in that amount of time, I got almost 300,000 views, 30,000 watch hours, 1,700 subscribers, and basically $1,900. So ultimately, worked out pretty good. It was a lot of work, a lot of videos. You can see all these little play buttons. I put out a bunch of videos on it. But I was working at it. There was a lot of boring stuff going on. But ultimately, you guys were watching. That was awesome. And the car basically paid for itself. Like I said, I had 2,300 bucks in it or something like that. But in all reality, you made $1,900. So it was a pretty solid investment. And we ended up with a car she could run and drive. Took it to work a few times. And it worked out pretty good. And then I was kind of done with it. And I put it in storage. And I started working on the Nova. So the next thing I did was chop it up into a two-door. So the Nova was done. You know, it was a 4-speed. I drove that a little bit. The weather had turned. It was starting to get cold. And I was looking for something to do. So it was basically right around beginning, middle of November. Pulled this thing home. I didn't have a lot of money in the two-door conversion. No, I had an extra set of doors. They were beat doors you guys saw in those videos. They were junk. They were actually the ones that came with the 55 when I got it. And I didn't end up using them because I found a better set of doors. They were just shells. But ultimately, you know, they gave the look, and on camera it looked like a two-door 57 Chevy, so it worked out just fine. I used all the trim and all that sort of stuff. So I made kind of 2 or 3 videos, put it out, and then all of a sudden, YouTube took off. And I started getting a pile of views, which is, you know, was awesome. A bunch of new subscribers. So at that point then, I found a set of used doors for 250 bucks. And then I spent some money on paint, you know, bodywork, stuff like that, for another couple $100, $200-300. So basically, I had $3,000 in the car, and you know, it kind of looked in and around like this. It was going to be, it still had the small block in it with the automatic transmission, but you know, it ran and drove, did its thing, bench seat. But it was a nice car. The wheels came with it. It had, you know, beat up Kragers. I redid those. Came with a drive shaft. The car came with everything. So I put it in. I put a set of some plexiglass for the black windows. I reused all the existing trim. I know it wasn't the greatest, but you know what? It does the trick. So it's good enough. So at that point, that's kind of what it was. But YouTube had taken off, and I don't want this to sound braggy because I'm really appreciative of you guys watching and commenting and subscribing and all those things. It took off like crazy. So here's what happened from November 10th till December 10th. So I got 636,000 views, 62,000 watch hours. I gained 5,000 subscribers. I made $4,500 in 1 month, or in 1 month time. Those are numbers I never thought I'd accomplish in 5 years type thing. So it worked out fantastic. So at that point, I started spending a few bucks, and then I don't know if I had the LS motor or not already. I bought one. I wanted to do it, so I was like, okay, well, this is the car it's going to happen to. So I mean, at this point now, the car's cost me $3,000, and just off ad revenue alone has generated $600 or $6,500. So I kind of felt like I was playing with free money. It's like, you know, when you win money in the casino. Thought, okay, I'm going to go to town and make this thing a nice driver. LS powered driver. So that's where I went. So I'll write down what the LS swap cost, and then we'll go back to the analytics one more time and go from there. Okay, the LS swap. This is where a lot of people had a lot of opinions, and hey, I'm not saying I did it the best way. I did it the way I wanted to, and it worked out for me in the end. There was absolutely cheaper ways to do it, maybe smarter ways, all those things. This is how I did it. So I picked up that 6-liter LS of an Escalade. That's what I wanted, an LQ9, $700 what I paid for it. I bought a Holley pan that was meant for these Tri-5s, so it was a real low-profile pan. It was 250 bucks. I've seen guys chop pans, and there's a GM aftermarket muscle car pan, which is about half the price, and it might have fit, but I didn't want to mess around. I learned my lesson when I did the 55. It was tight with the rear steer, so I paid up. Headers. I bought a set off Speedway. There was Clipsters, they're called. A bunch of people asked me about those. They were guaranteed to fit around the steering box, and they did. So they're 300 bucks. So that was fantastic. Only set of headers I've ever bought that I didn't have to beat with a hammer to fit. So I don't regret spending that. The Holley kit was $1,000. That's the Terminator X without the transmission. So it had the computer but ran everything. So that was a big hit for sure. The fuel system. That was 600 bucks. I put an Aeromotive tank with pump and sender, and then I ran line to the front with a Corvette style return filter. definitely could have done that cheaper with an external pump and all those things. The tank that was in the car was actually out of the 55 when I got it, so it was junk, it leaked. The sender didn't work, I took it all apart, tried to fix it, it was wore out. So I needed a new tank and sender anyways, and a factory one, Canadian, is about $350, so I don't know. And then I still have to have an external pump, run it, do all those things. I wanted an internal pump. I think they last longer and they're quieter, which is what I wanted. So that's the way I went. I definitely overspent there, but it is what it is. And then the motor mounts, I bought those dirty dingle mounts. I think they were 150 bucks or something like that. They were expensive, but they did fit. So the motor went in, I didn't have to do any screwing around. So the swap cost me about $3,200. So definitely not cheap. But, I mean, it's a good motor, it runs good, and I'm happy with it. Looking back, the motor was cheap, 700 bucks, that's no big deal. The Holly pan, I don't regret spending that. Headers are $300. Headers are headers. I could have saved money if I just used the existing harness. I mean, I had a harness, I had a computer. I could have had it flashed or done whatever for $200-300, and I would have ran just fine. Same with the fuel system. I could have just used an external pump, not had a gauge or whatever, and probably cut that number in half. And the motor mounts, I probably could have made something up myself. So the way I look at it, if I wanted to, I probably could have had the motor running and driving in the car for half the dollars. So like $1,500, $1,600, which is not the way I did it. So all said and done, I had about $6,200 in the car the way it sits. So, I mean, I don't know, for a little over $6,000, I got a 2-door 57 Chevy with an LS motor. The transmission with the Turbo 350 I had a stall converter and a shift kit in it. So that's my own thing. But it did come with a Turbo 400. So, I mean, that's, in many ways a better transmission, but it wasn't built. Now, one thing I want to say, everyone makes the comments, and I know it's a 4-door car. I get it. It's not magically a 2-door now. It's not worth what a 2-door is worth. That's fine. It's a ratty car I want to drive, and it's a 2-door LS powered 57 Chevy by look, not by VIN number, and so be it. The other thing, just because that's $6,200 in parts. I probably have 200-300 hours in this car. So if you were going to pay someone, a lot of guys have asked me what I would charge to switch this all over. It'd be a pile of money. Like, I mean, shop rates, whatever, 80, 90 bucks an hour, 100 bucks an hour. Do the math real quick. You'd have $20,000 in this car just to pay someone to do what I've done on top of your, $6,000 to $10,000 investment. At that point, just go buy the car. You'd be further ahead. With the quarters, same thing. I didn't put on full quarters. I just used the back doors, cut them down, skinned them, welded them on. You could put new quarters on this thing, would have been way nicer, but way more money. So this was definitely as budget as it gets. So that's why I wanted to spend the money on the motor. Now look over here. So this goes from December 12th till basically yesterday. So no, 3 weeks of doing the LS swap. So now obviously I'm down views and all that stuff because I'm comparing it to when I had that huge spike before. But a couple 100,000 hits, 1,500 new subscribers, and basically $1,400. So, I mean, it paid for half the LS swap, and it would have paid for it completely had I done it as cheap as I wanted. But just the real quick math here, the car, 4-door was $2,500, $500 to 2-door swap it, $3,250. So I had $6,250 in it. YouTube was $1,800, $4,600, and then $1,400. So I've made $7,800 bucks out of YouTube on a $6,200 car. So I may have wasted some money. That's fine. But ultimately, it didn't really cost me anything. And I still own the car, which is fantastic. That being said, it's a 100% thanks to you guys. I mean, the title might as well have 100,000 names on it because you guys watched it, liked it, commented, subscribed, all those things, which is fantastic. So that's kind of my view of how it worked. People ask me all the time, should they start a YouTube channel, how to start, all those things. My answer is yes. Well, I'm no special anything. Never done this before. You can probably tell by the editing and the way it goes. Get out there, do it, put your first video up. If you want to go back and watch my first video, I'm sure you'll see I look ridiculous and it's embarrassing and all those things. And it got no views. But stick with it, and I've been doing it for a little over a year, and it worked out. But you got to get out there and just do it. That's my advice. Don't spend a pile of money. Use your phone, edit it on your phone, and upload it, and just be consistent. answer people's comments, appreciate what you do, and I think it'll come. So that's a quick breakdown of the car, why I did it, how much it cost, what I used, how YouTube kind of works. Again, that's just my opinion of it, my experience. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, leave a comment, shoot me a message on Instagram. I answer every single one. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.